The chinchilla might be the fluffiest land animal in the world, but does that make it a perfect pet? Today in this video, I'll be breaking down and rating the chinchilla on 4 things. But first, I'll get a little background. The chinchilla, as you can see, is very, very fluffy. But he is a rodent. And unlike a rabbit, which is not a rodent, rodents get a lot of hate. They got the red eyes. You usually think of that mouse or something that has red eyes and staring at you in the dark. And most people just don't like rodents, and that's okay. But I think about everybody in the world likes chinchillas. They're the only rodent everybody likes. And you can probably see why. They're very cute, they're cuddly, they're probably the softest animal in the world, in my opinion they are. And they're just beautiful. Now, they do come from the Andes Mountains, which is in South America. I believe they come from the Chile part, and they live way up high in the mountain range. And they actually don't look like what this guy looks like right here. Here's a picture of them. They just look way more rough and meant for the wild, and I'll get into that later in this video. But first, let's start with the rankings. The first one is going to be handleability. How well they're handled. For how big these guys look, they are very small. They're just so fluffy that they look big. This guy's skeleton is very, very small, and you can easily put a lot of pressure on them, especially once you're learning to handle them or you're just giving them to a friend. Most people put a lot of pressure on them and will squeeze them, and they'll probably make some type of noise or might try to nibble at you to let you know they don't like that. I also probably wouldn't give them to someone who's never handled them, or I would at least want to be right there in a grabbing range, because these guys like to squirm, and especially whenever you're holding them, they can be trained. I've had mine for a couple of years. They're both okay with me holding them, but sometimes whenever they get spooked, which they often do, or they just don't like something or something's new, they'll move and they'll squirm, and they just move all the time. So you just have to get used to that. But for their ratings, for handleability, we're going to give them 3 stars. Next up is how social they are. The chinchilla is a very social animal. They actually live in what is called herds, which is just a large amount of chinchillas in the wild. But whenever you keep them in a cage, there's kind of a rule to always keep 2 of them because of how social they are. I actually kind of disagree with that rule, because I've had one for the first couple of years that I kept a chinchilla, and he did perfectly fine. Now, he did not like other chinchillas. He actually got into a couple fights whenever he was younger, but he saw me as part of the pack, and I was able to keep one of them, but it did take a lot of care for him. I had to spend extra time with him because he just didn't have a buddy. But he would actually do all, and he still does, all of the habits that chinchillas would do with each other. Like, he tries to groom me, he loves to talk to me, and he just does all the habits that he would do with another chinchilla to me. And you can keep 2 of them, which is recommended, but in my personal experience, whenever you keep more of them, they sometimes tend to create a bond with each other instead of you. Sorry about that. As you can see, they love to run around, and he does not want to stay on this desk, which is fine. I'll let him explore, but I tried to get another box for him to be entertained with, but he's just not going to buy it for now, so he'll probably just be running around. But we were talking about how social they are, especially whenever they're with more chinchillas. They're very cute 2 chinchillas is always better. And cuteness. They can live in the same cage together if they have that type of bond. So that can cut down on cost. You don't always have to buy a second cage for the second chinchilla that you get. But to simplify it, you can go either way. You can get one and be perfectly happy. You're just probably gonna have to spend more time with it and love it more than if you got 2 of them, which they can kind of love each other and you don't have to spend as much time as you would. But overall, I will rate a chinchilla a 3.5 stars on sociability. Next up is maintenance. Your daily maintenance is kind of what I'm going to talk about here. Chinchillas are very high maintenance. If you don't want them to smell, these guys, they poop a lot. They're rodents. It is a dry poop, thankfully, not a wet poop, and it smells. So you're probably gonna have to clean their cage and sweep around their cage every day. Now, thankfully, the way cages are made for them, they have trays for every floor that they're on. But so yeah, you can just take out the trays and dump them, as my chinchilla spills something over there. But yeah, you can just take out the trays and dump them outside or in a trash bag. And you can just do that every day. It takes a minute, less than a minute to do. But it is something you're gonna have to be consistent with, and you just don't want that odor to build up in your house, especially whenever you're having people over. And you're gonna wanna sweep around the area because these guys do tend to throw stuff around. They do have hands. They will use them gladly. And they're just very active running around their cage, so that's just naturally gonna toss a lot of stuff out of the cage. And you're gonna wanna sweep that up. But for maintenance, they're gonna get a 2 stars out of 5 stars. All right, I've made a quick chinchilla substitute right here. This is my other chinchilla, Chichi. The one before that was Pepe. But hopefully he'll stay on the table and not jump off on me. He is a little calmer. But last thing we're gonna rate them on is the cost. Chinchillas are exotic animals, so I will be comparing them to other exotic animals. To buy a chinchilla, you can buy them at PetSmart. It is going to be roughly around $250, which is not too bad for an exotic animal. You can buy them online and other places, but that is going to cost more. But I'll just be going off the pet store. Now for their cage, the best cage and the cage that I use is $320 on Amazon. It probably will last almost their whole life. You can replace the trays inside the cage if they chew them up or if they get damaged, they are replaceable. Your next cost is going to be food, which at the pet store, the food I buy for them, I believe it's like $18. These guys don't eat too much. They mostly eat hay, which, there he goes. It's probably another $18 because you need hay and kibble for them. They do eat a lot more hay. It's about 70% to 30%. And lastly, you'll need some litter, which is about $22. You don't have to have it. There are some other alternatives, but that's mostly what everyone uses for their bathroom. But overall, it's not that expensive for them. They are very expensive up front. You have to pay for them, you have to pay for the cage, and probably some toys that they need. So for cost, I'm gonna give them 3.5 stars. And for some bonus tips, chinchillas are nocturnal, which is not really that bad. I never run into the problem. I would never have them in a place I sleep. There's probably some health issues with that and breathing things, but mainly they're very loud during the night. They're awake, they're fully awake, and their cage is made out of metal, and they're bouncing around, and it is very loud. But you're really not going to run into that being a problem, that they're nocturnal. Really, they're just going to sleep while you're at school or work, and when you come back, they'll be awake. Um, they're not going to be as awake as, like midnight, but you can still get them out, play with them, and it will be fun. Next is that these guys have 20,000 hair particles per an inch squared on them, which is insane. And it's partly the reason why, well, it is the reason why they are so fluffy. Chinchilla also have huge teeth. Every rodent does. They're just these two huge front teeth that you definitely don't want to get bit by. They would create a nice hole in your hand or wherever they bit you. Now, do they bite? My chinchillas have never bitten me. Even sometimes whenever they're scared. That's the only reason I can really think why they would try to bite you, if they were scared or you grab them too firmly. Most of the time they're just going to squeak at you and tell you they don't like that, what you're doing. So you'll have many signs before they attempt to bite you. So overall, I will give chinchillas a 3-star rating. They're beginner friendly, intermediate friendly. Actually, I would say they're not the hardest pet in the world to take care of. They do have daily care, but if you're really focused on it and care for them a lot, it's not too much to ask for. It seems this little guy is ready to go back to his house, so I'm gonna wrap it up there. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you have any ideas or questions or statements you want to make to me, please leave them down in the comments. And other than that, I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.